Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Manifest and Monetize with Aliza Rose. Hello, I am your host, Aliza Rose, the business mystic, and I am so happy that you are here. So, for today's episode, we are going to be addressing one of the biggest challenges I really see spiritual entrepreneurs face. Okay. And this is when it comes to pricing their services in a way that honors both their gifts and their needs. Okay, and I want to make sure that we expand upon spiritual entrepreneurs. This could be maybe that you are actually using spiritual gifts, like that is your business, you're monetizing your spiritual gifts. So you could be like a healer, a Reiki healer, a tarot reader, you do human design, but this could also mean that you are a spiritual person who has a business and you use spiritual tools as part of that. So, for example, if you are a corporate coach who utilizes, meditation or tarot to help your clients, right? So, I want to make sure that we expand upon what spiritual entrepreneur means so that we kind of understand, we modernize that term. Okay. So let's dive right into it. So, for me, I want a little bit of a story time here, real quick. Is that I used to have what I'm calling pricing panic attacks. And so, it's like every time back in the day, when I needed to tell a potential client, they haven't even signed with me, right? A potential client, what my rates were. I swear to goodness, my palms would get super sweaty, my heart would race, I'd feel a pit in my stomach, and I would just be freaking out. I would just be freaking out. So even if I, would say to myself, okay, I'm going to charge this much an hour for copywriting, this is how much a reading is, I would be so nervous that people pleasing skill would just, that those people pleasing traits would start to kick in full on. And instead of actually stating what my rates were, I found myself lowering the prices, before they could even before I mean, I wouldn't even have anything saying indicating that they couldn't afford my new pricing or my updated pricing or my higher prices. I was just so anxious and nervous about it, right? And maybe you can relate to that. I was constantly afraid of being judged as money hungry, or like I'm not in it, I'm only in it for the money, like I don't care about the other person, or someone was or the worst part of it was maybe someone telling me, I'm sorry, you're just not worth what you're asking for. Like, I think that would have just broke my heart and broke my spirit. So you probably can relate to this, what I'm calling the pricing panic attacks. And, it's a real thing. It's a real thing. And it's really scary, right? It's very scary when you're in that moment. So I want you to understand that your pricing, okay, isn't just a business decision. It literally is an energetic statement about how you value your gifts and how you value the transformation that you provide. Okay. So you clearly have done everything you can, whether you've learned and earned, you know, how the techniques and processes, degrees, certifications, etc., to be proficient, to be efficient at the transformation, or you studied or you honed in real time, your gifts and talents to provide this, right? Your pricing is telling the world, I value what I've done here. I valued what I've gone through to become really good, to master my craft. Okay. So when you undercharge, all right, you are energetically and literally communicating the doubt you have about your own value. Okay, now so if you create something if you create something and it's designed to be like, hey, like I just want people to get a taster of me, or this is just a quick little thing, it's $20, it's the pack of gum, at the checkout stand, that's different. I'm talking about the big transformational stuff. Okay, your high ticket offers. Okay, so you energetically communicate doubt about your own value, the value of what you provide in that transformation. Okay, you attract clients who aren't ready to fully invest in their transformation. Okay. And that's kind of disappointing, especially for those of you who are coaches and consultants, or who have long term packages. It's really frustrating when you're trying to help somebody get to some place, get to that next step, next level, but they don't do the work, or they ghost their commitments. They don't pay their bills. They don't show up to calls. It's frustrating. Okay. You can subtly create resentment that affects your work. You don't show up for your work. You don't want to answer the emails. You don't fulfill or deliver on what you promised on. You're like quiet quitting your own business, right? Um, And then, of course, to kind of tie back to what the series is about, it's like you're perpetuating the starving healer, okay, stereotype to yourself. You're reinforcing that belief in yourself. And of course, at the community at large, it's like, okay, if this person's so talented, they got all these testimonials, they could change my life with human design. Why are they, in an hour, why are they charging 15 bucks? Unless it's like a lead magnet Facebook ad situation where, you're giving a PDF away, or it's a way for you to grow your lead. That's a different positioning. I mean, I'm talking about your big work here. Okay. And you know what that is. So the truth is, that real meaningful transformation has tremendous value. Okay, people want this. People willingly pay premium prices for all kinds of things, especially when it comes to like physical transformation. I mean, think about how much people spend on fitness training, cosmetic surgery and procedures, home renovations. Okay, I mean, it's insane. Like paint, wallpaper. I mean, it is crazy. Like just go search that, right? So the thing is, we need to stop devaluing the the effects and the impact that spiritual and emotional transformation can provide. That they are just as equally valuable as physical transformation, if not more. Because we've all seen it where someone may physically change something, but if they don't have the internal transformation, they're going to self sabotage. They're not going to be able to fully step in and accept this new reality for themselves. Okay, so your pricing, okay, needs to reflect the depth of transformation that you provide. Okay, it needs to reflect the years, the training, the certifications, the courses that you actually completed and did, right? That you've invested in developing your gifts, into growing your business, into bettering yourself. Okay, your pricing needs to reflect that. Your pricing also needs to reflect the ongoing energy and journey that you are on into maintaining your own spiritual practice, your own personal growth, and your own business development. Okay, it needs to reflect that energy. Like, hey, I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to stay up on top of the trends. Okay, and ultimately, your pricing needs to reflect the expertise and insight you bring to every session that you have with your clients, every call you have with your clients. Okay. So it's not like you just pick and choose and parse out, like, okay, I'm going to do this reading, but I'm only going to bring in my reading skills. No, you're going to bring life experiences. You're going to bring in that one time you read that one book, you took that one course, you did that retreat. You're going to be bringing all of you. You bring all of you into your sessions. So your pricing needs to reflect that. Okay. So takeaway, homework time. Okay. So I want you to really understand that when you going forward after today, I want you to think about putting in place value first. When you're looking at your pricing, value first. What is the value that my client, the end user, is going to get out of this experience? What is that transformation that they are going to get? What would life be like for them if they didn't get your reading, if they didn't do your coaching, if they didn't do your course or your program or whatever, right? What would life be like if they didn't do it? So it's a way to kind of flip and understand the value that you're providing. Okay. So here's how to really, here's a really simple method formula that I want you to practice, and I call it the value first pricing method. Okay. So this is going to help shift your focus. Okay, shift your focus from like, okay, well, I spend 24 I spend 20 hours on your thing, or on technique, like, oh well, I'm a 5th degree black belt level something, or purple, I'm a level 5 master coach or certificate, like, so we're not about time and we're not about technique, we're talking about transformation. So number 1, identify the specific transformation that your client is going to receive. Again, not about how much time it's going to take and not about the technique that you're using. So if you're like, I'm a master certified, sacral healing person, it's like, okay, that's great. But that's how you're going to get them there. But what is a transformation, right? They want to focus on the transformation. What is the specific transformation your client is going to receive when they work with you? Number 2, ask yourself, okay? And this is something that I ask my clients all the time, especially my VIP program, is what would this transformation, be worth to someone who's been struggling with this for years? What is it? What is it worth? What would this be? So if, for example, if someone has a really crappy, janky website, they're going to be really embarrassed to share that website with others, right? They're subconsciously going to hold back, and then they're going to self-sabotage, right? Like, oh, you got invited to be a speaker, but your website looks kind of junky. Okay. Like, you see what I'm saying? So what would this transformation be worth to them if they've been struggling with this issue for years? So it's just trying to give you an example there. The other thing to consider, the third thing, is what are similar or sister type of transformations? How much those cost in mainstream, like in the mainstream market? Okay, so like for example, if somebody was to go to therapy, if they were going to get like coaching, if they were doing any kind of wellness services, what would this be similar to? So for example, like a website, this example, like redoing your website, how much would it cost to repaint someone's house? How much would it cost to landscape their home? How much would it cost to remodel their home? Whew, now you're looking at some big numbers there, right? If you're familiar with this, right? So what does this look like? What's a similar transformation? Doesn't have to be exact, but what's a sister or similar transformation that you can find in the mainstream market? Okay. And then from that criteria of asking yourself these questions and really identifying the specific transformation, choose a price. But here's the rule, right? Here's the rules. When you're choosing the price, it has to make you feel really excited to deliver it, not resentful. So you don't want to go too low, and you don't want to go too high where your nervous system is, your parasympathetic and your somatic systems are like freaking out because you're like, I'm going to charge $1,000,000 for this reading, for this coaching package, and yet you're struggling to charge 100, right? Like that's a misalignment. So find a number, find a price point that makes you feel really excited, or even a range. If you need to be like, okay, if I did this between $500 and $1,000, I would feel really excited. And I'm going to, figure out where exactly that number is in that range. Okay. Number 2A, I guess, or 4A technically, it needs to reflect the value of that transformation. Again, this is why we're saying, how much is this worth to someone who's been struggling with this? What are similar transformations in the mainstream market that you've identified? So this kind of gives you some ideas of what that value is, what the true value of that transformation is. And then finally, the most important thing is this allows you to serve sustainably, meaning you can afford your Wi-Fi, you can afford your software subscription stack, you can afford to put gas in your car, you can afford the roof over your head, you can afford to get good food. Okay, this is what it means to serve sustainably. Like, we have to include all those things in that impact, okay, and in that pricing point. Okay, so importantly, crucially even, you need to practice saying your price out loud. Like, you need to go in front of a mirror and do the thing. Like, this is a technique that they teach for actors, for professional speakers, politicians, anybody who has to speak to the public or has to be part of these kind of conversations, or they must emote and bring it, as you will. They have to practice too, right? So I want you to practice saying your new price, and I want you to do it in front of a mirror. I want you to connect to the person who is looking back at you. It's you, right? You are your first client. You should be your first love, right? You should be like, this is why we're working, why you can't, this is you, right? Like, if you're a parent, we're always like thinking of our children, but it's like, we also need to think of ourselves, right? Because if we're not there, they're impacted as well, right? So you got to love yourself too. You got to really feel it. So practice saying your new price out loud in your mirror until you feel comfortable, until you could feel your energy, your emotions, and your body in sync. Okay, so you're not feeling nervous, you're not having those pricing panic attacks that I talked about earlier, right? And so you could just say, hey, the price is, $100. The price is $500. The price is $1,000. The coaching is $10,000. The coaching is $15,000. And you can say it without apology, without trying to justify, without being awkward or trying to fill in quiet spaces. Okay, you cannot fake energy. And so your energy needs to communicate your price, that your price is just as important as the number itself. Okay. So you are valuing your energy and your transformation, and thus they also must value your time, your energy, and your transformation. Okay. So In closing, I want you to remember to value your work appropriately. Okay, appropriately. Okay, you have done the work. You know, you've earned and learned. You have a knack for this. You have a talent. You were divinely designed with these gifts, with these talents. Okay, you create spaces for your clients, to heal, to be transformed. So I want you to value what you're bringing into it. Okay, I want you to value it so that your clients value it. Okay, so I hope this helps. If this helps, please leave a 5-star review. With whether you're listening to this on, on Spotify or Apple or Amazon or Audible, please let people know. Share my podcast. Share the show with others so that they can benefit from this as well. And with that, I'll see you all next time. All right, bye.